should we tell Dilten now during the break?
Yeah, maybe I can have it be the opening bit, the opening joke.
Okay. Hey, Dilten, I'm going to send you a screenshot.
Okay.
Who sent this to you, by the way, Bantam?
Tricinix.
Oh, shit.
You've been discovered.
Yeah.
He knows.
Tricinix sent me a direct message on Twitter, and it was a screenshot from a Power of 3D commission with your name in it, and he goes, "That's a coincidence, right?" And I'm like, "Nope."
That's
Wow.
actually him.
Amazing.
He's been discovered. Dilatan, the fans know you want to be eaten. Alright, welcome to the World of Dragons podcast. I am Tyre Ray. I am here with my good friend / writer, Bantam. Say hello.
Hi, I am actually a Grifferak bodyguard. Thank you.
Okay, we're going with that. Alright. Also, I am here with the 1 hour late Dilatan.
Fashionably late.
A dragon arrives precisely when it intends to.
Exactly.
No, it's Burrito Tan right now.
It's black. It feels so good right now. Oh, God, yeah.
Well, Dilatan, you said you wanted to ad-lib the opening. Go, ad-lib something.
Oh, right. Fuck, I'm drawing a blank.
What do we do on this show, Dilatan?
Well, what we do is we're trying to build an archive of anything dragon-related, media-wise, including books, movies, TV shows. I'm tired of always seeing the human kill the dragon. We're trying to fix that.
Now it's time for the dragons to kill the humans?
Exactly.
Yes! I mean...
it is November 1st, technically. We record in the middle of the night, which means it is time for NaNoWriMo. 2 of us, at least, are going to be taking part in that challenge.
Yeah.
Dilatan, in your book, will there be dragons killing humans?
There actually be no humans.
Yeah, that's the correct answer.
Going the purest route.
Actually, dragons will also be dying, but I will not spoil anything.
Well, if there's no humans, then they're killing each other, in which case it's probably fine.
Actually, kobolds from the future will be.
Oh my
You
god.
have to read to find out.
Time-traveling kobolds?
I
Not
mean,
time-traveling kobolds.
technically that's canon in D&D.
No, that was dimension traveling.
He had a Spaz 12 shotgun from modern day.
Right, but modern day, our world is not in the future of the D&D stuff. It's same time, different dimension, universe, whatever.
Same thing.
Whatever. There will be humans in my book, because that's just the best way I could think of to tell the story I wanted to tell. But yeah, dragon will be killing humans, so vengeance time. Let's go.
My book is going to be possibly entirely smut, so I will make it available to Patreon supporters, but I don't know who's going to want to read it.
You're gonna gatekeep it through Patreon. You're not gonna just.
I'm not going to
sell
gatekeep it. It's more like no, I'm not going to sell the book. If anyone's interested in it, they can read it, but I'm not exactly going to just throw it out into the ether and be like, there it is, NaNoWriMo.
Well, okay, so my intention is, if I manage to get through this, I'll have a couple of test readers. They'll give me feedback, and then I'll polish it and I'll whatever. But after all that's done, I'll probably just try to sell the ebook.
Yeah, there you go.
On Kindle or whatever. $3. There we go. Here you go.
And then
Enjoy.
let me narrate it for the audiobook.
I don't think you can narrate.
Oh, I can narrate.
You can't do all the voices I'd need, though. Quick, do a Gaelic dragon accent. Go.
No, I have thoughts and opinions on voices, but we'll get into that.
All right, so this week we are doing Dragon Outcast, which is the 3rd book in the Age of Fire series.
And the best book.
By E.E. Knight.
I got some hot takes on that one, Bantam.
Yeah.
That later.
This is the last book we will be reviewing and discussing on the show for a while at least. I felt that the first 3 books were the main ones as far as world building goes, and we just have so much more on our to-do list that we're going to try to tackle some of those, and then in the future we may come back to do the last 3 books.
Not may,
But-
we will.
Well, it kind of depends on how far in the future we're talking about and how much stuff keeps coming out. But yeah, so if you were reading along with us and you want to finish the series, then go ahead. You have our blessing. We're not going to get upset at you reading above us. It's fine.
It might help you prepare some questions later on that you might have for the podcast too.
But yeah, the show was always kind of initially intended to just be introduce you to the world and then release you to wreak havoc upon it. But yeah. Anyway, so to start off with some non-spoiler discussion, I don't feel like we need to talk too much about the writing style and all that because it's the same author as the last two books, obviously. However, Bantam did want to talk about the narration a bit.
Oh, yes. And again, I am just going to be flinging shit, but I'm not going to be flinging it at anyone in particular because I don't know who's to blame, the narrator or the author. The Cockney accent of the bats drove me to a homicidal rage. While I was at work and we're listening to the book, and for the most part, in fact, probably about 4/5 of the entire book, I was listening in tandem with Ray while at work, and every time those bats talked, I just wanted to just stab something. I hate Cockney accents. I am really sorry if that is your real life accent, if you're listening from the UK, but it is the worst accent I've ever heard. I never want to hear it in my fantasy books. The only place that it belongs is animated Batman episodes where the bad guys are like, "Oh, we got you, right?" Like, it's horrible.
What about Space Orcs?
No. Okay, Space Orcs is also acceptable because they're usually brutal, and it makes you seem like a stupid villain henchman. I hate it so much.
They kind of were villain henchmen.
They weren't, though.
Right.
They were goddamn. Ugh. I can't.
He's so angry he can't even talk.
I can't even think. Oh my god. No, like the first time I heard them, I'm like, okay,
Maybe they'll just be here for a little bit.
A little bit, but several chapters. Oh, it was horrible. Oh my god.
Actually, like a third of the whole book there.
Yeah, and then
it felt like a third. Yeah,
and so without spoiling. They kind of go away for most of the rest of the book. And I was like, because I will say that out of the 3 books, this was my favorite. But toward the end of the book, there's just one, thankfully, it's like 3 or 4 sentences, but he addresses one of the bats and it starts talking again. And I went, no, not again.
To be fair, his accent wasn't nearly as strong.
It wasn't nearly as strong. But, yeah, Oh, the Cockney accent.
How about a sup?
There was another... it's like, how many times are you going to have to describe the fact that they bit him open and started drinking blood? Like, we get it. You don't have to describe it every time. But there was another accent that really pissed me off, and I can't even remember it because that's how mad the Cockney accents made me. Oh, I mean, again, I don't like the copper's voice. I don't like the fact that he sounded mentally retarded. I understand that he hasn't had a lot of chance to talk with people, but and this may be just a continuity error, but in the Wistala's book, when she went back to the cave and she met with the copper, he didn't talk like that. And I understand that it was just 1 or 2 lines and then it went back, she left, but I couldn't stand listening to him the whole book. Talk like this, and it's like it was just ridiculous to me. And the other thing is that throughout the course of the book, he was obviously talking to a lot more people, but his voice still remained stupid. And
I actually feel like it got better as
it got slightly better, but it was still noticeably annoying. It made him sound slow, and I didn't like it.
Yes, someone who's grew up with a speech impediment before, it did kind of rub me the wrong way. Like
I have an impediment.
Well, my tongue wasn't fully developed because I was born early, so I could enunciate well. I had to struggle with some of the letters. It's not like I had a lisp or something or I sounded gay. It's just that like when it came to certain words, I struggled.
Yeah, so does Ray.
Very gay.
So does Ray.
Yeah. So growing up, I grew up in a trilingual home, but I'm not trilingual myself because my parents kind of bailed out on that. Basically, okay, I don't know what age kids are supposed to start talking, but let's pretend it's 2. Okay,
mm-hmm.
I'm probably wrong. Let's pretend it's 2 years old. if a kid's supposed to start talking at 2 years old, I was 3 and I wasn't talking, and my parents thought they were breaking me by trying to speak English, German, and Spanish around me. And so they bailed out, started doing only English, and I started talking shortly after. And so they're like, oh, okay, that's on us. Shortly after, they found like a book or whatever on like raising kids, you know, how parents, with their firstborn, they usually have the guidebooks and whatever, that said kids being raised in a bi or trilingual home will develop all 3 languages, but because they're doing it simultaneously, they just start talking later in life. And so they're like, oh, oops. Should have stuck with it a bit longer. But anyway, because of that, I ended up having a really weird, I guess I want to say accent, because certain words got screwed up in my brain, certain sounds, because like Spanish does R's very differently than other languages or whatever. I had a really hard time with my R's growing up, like all through grade school and middle school. And even now, sometimes I have problems with words that have R in it if I'm not focusing on it really hard. And it makes it sound like I slur sometimes when I start talking really fast.
Yeah. Like Dilettante, you know those little dials and meters that are usually on electronic equipment? What would you call those?
Oh, now you're just making fun of my pronunciation.
All right,
I just call them gauges.
I love you, Ray.
What's wrong with gauge?
It's not a gauge. It's a gauge. Gauge. Anyway, so yeah, aside from some very unfortunate accent choices, and the thing is that he did some that were absolutely amazing. What was the name of the dragon with his mouth messed up? Nivam. So when he did the voice for Nivam has a part of his lip torn open, so like kind of exposing his jaw, I guess. And I even tested it while I was at work. It sounds like the narrator maybe stuck his pinky in his mouth and pulled one of his cheeks back.
Do it right now. Do it right now.
So it kind of sounded like he talked like this. And I remember in between chapters, because usually when a new chapter starts, we pause so that we can make sure we're synced up when we go on breaks or go do something else or whatever. But I remember trying to repeat something that Nivam said with my finger in my mouth, and I went, oh my god, it does. It sounds exactly like that. He's literally putting his finger in his mouth. And the tire had this very old man flavor to his voice, where he would take like a raspy breath in before he'd talk. And the fact that he was able to do that on command was fucking phenomenal. But it was always just kind of like a, yeah, so anyway. And I was like, damn, that's actually really fucking good.
All right, Dilettante, did you have any bones with the voice acting?
Not entirely. I had more bones with the actual story than the voice acting.
Yeah. So I guess that's the only pre-spoiler thing we need to do, is just bash on the voice acting for bantam's sake.
I guess.
The Cockney accent alone, all right, if they got rid of that, I'd have been fine. The Cockney accent just made me aware of how bad voices can be, and then I just...
Yeah. How was the pacing of this one compared to the other two? Because like the other two were a lot of... Aron was a lot of journeying and a lot of being alone, and then Wistala was a lot of... I don't know, hers felt very episodic.
Yeah.
Like here's the troll episode, then here's the circus episode, then here's the dwarf episode.
The dad episode.
Whatever. Yeah. How did you guys feel about the general pacing of this one?
So, for me personally, the pacing was flawless. No part of this book got too long for me to be like, all right, move along.
I'm the same way, but I feel like a lot was hammered in on the first book, and I'll get into that later. But as far as like the pacing of the story, yeah, I think it was okay.
By first book, do you mean the first part?
Yeah.
I was like, book 1, Hatchling. Book 2, Drake, or whatever, right? Right. I enjoyed this one's pacing-wise. There's been some books I've read recently that I always feel like, this moved really fast. I would have loved for this to linger for a bit, Let's enjoy this period of time before we go on to the next plot point. Didn't really have that with this one. There are a couple things like, it would have been fun to just, I guess, see one of the mock battles that it described when he was with the other dragons he finds later. But I could also understand that being complete fluff and not necessary. So, it's alright.
Yeah.
Out of the 3 books so far, which one was your favorite, Bantam?
This one.
Dilettante?
I'm going to go with the first one, actually.
I like this one the best too, just because this is a lot more, has more society in it. Like I said, my biggest problem with Auron's book, the first one, was that he was alone for most of it. And a few times he wasn't alone, it ends in tragedy.
Well, so with Auron's book, yeah, he was mostly alone aside from when he was with the wolves. And with Stala's book, she wasn't necessarily alone most of the time, but she was always around other hominids or whatever. But with the Copper's book, with this book, he was around other dragons. It was almost entirely other dragons. The few humans that were in the book didn't really have too many speaking lines or major parts in the story. So you could kind of let dragon society, dragon temperaments, dragon personalities come out more.
Yep. So I asked this at the end of the review section of episode 1. We kind of skipped it last time, but we'll come back to now. Would you, now that you're 3 books in, halfway through, and you kind of understand all the characters and the scene is set and all that, I guess, would you recommend this book series to friends?
Absolutely.
For me, it would really depend on the friend. If there's someone who can, pick up a book and be done with it in a day, like, someone who can put several hours into just reading, yes. But for someone like myself, probably not, because I don't have a lot of reading stamina unless it takes place in a universe that I am heavily invested in, which for me is pretty much exclusively BattleTech or, sci-fi future stuff.
Sci-fi future dragons. Let's go.
I mean, I will say when the problem is that now that I'm older and I'm an adult, when I was a kid, I used to read
What?
books.
Since when? I
used to read books like crazy. The Dragon, the Basil Broketail saga, I still own those books, and I'm aware that I loved them, but I don't know if I still will.
If I had to go back and read them?
I kind of want to, yeah. But I loved those books. I mean, there's still a scene in that book that I vividly remember to this day. And it's like, I used to read books like crazy. And now I just don't have, my brain is just like, nah, it's not a movie.
I, of course, would recommend this. It's kind of a given, considering when we do book reviews, I come up with them. So obviously, I recommend it to these 2, and I'm recommending it to all of you who are listening. So it kind of goes without saying. Basically, assume I would recommend it unless I say, like during the episode, by the way, this book is terrible, but it's hilarious terrible.
Like Knight's Fire.
That's not that bad. It's like, it has a good idea, but then it like backed out on it halfway through, and that just left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
The first example of a terrible book, but it's still like, all right, you gotta stick with it because it's kind of enjoyable. Terrible would be Gork the Teenage Dragon. Don't remember the author. Not gonna look it up right now. But I'm gonna get you guys to listen to it one time, and it's, oh my god. But yeah,
is that the one with the dragon high school or something?
It's a Battle Academy. Yeah,
Battle Academy, right? It's like My Hero Academia with dragons.
Kinda. Dilettante.
Yes.
Since we have the full setting of the world, since, because this book has other dragons in it, would you live in this world?
No.
Still no?
It's a still no.
Even after the events of this book, you'd not live here?
This dragon society is a very violent society, and I'm not a very violent dragon. I would not survive. I know this for a fact.
Yeah, I would kick your ass.
Why you specifically?
Because I'm out to get you.
So I wouldn't live in this world only because it's, now that I have the full picture, it really does feel like Total War. Warhammer. Just constant fighting, constant
grim dark.
The way they describe the lava dome that Copper is in for most of the book, it sounds like a impenetrable fortress of solitude that the dragons can exist in, but even that is proved to not be the case. So
yeah, because they still end up fighting each other.
It's like they have safety, comfort, and luxury, and then they just resort to infighting and political intrigue. So it's like, all right, like nowhere is safe.
That is the author's take on dragons. I would live here after the shit. What's the word? The happenings of this book. I can't remember what the word is. But yeah, after having read this book the first time and again now, whatever. I would live here. I'd have to be Tyre, but I would live here. And I guess this is a good segue on to another thing we discussed about, because now that we actually see more dragons, like we saw like one or two in Aron's book, they were mostly just the solitude living alone dragons, like a Numwalk, right? Saw a small group in Wistala's, which is basically the Sadavale, if you guys remember them.
Mm-hmm.
But in this book, we see a lot more dragons. We see like the closest thing to the old Silverhide that used to exist thousands of years ago. So what do you guys think about this author's interpretations of dragons as far as their biology, their society, and their habits and how he incorporates myths into them?
Well, he certainly gives dragons the same type of, I guess you could call it, personality defects that most characters need in a book, which I appreciate. You know, they do
arrogance.
They do covet things. They think themselves superior, but you know, then when they're faced with another of their kind that is clearly superior to them, it's like they realize, oh my god, like I'm pathetic, or you know, it does the.
It's a very strong ruling over the weak hierarchy.
Yeah, it does feel like Aron, Wistala, and Copper are, definitely the hero types. Like, they are smarter. Like, every character always finds some way to be like, wow, you're special. It happens constantly in each book where a character will be like, oh, I've never met a dragon like you. You're so different. And it's like, yeah, okay.
Well, it's because these are the 3 dragons that are going to change the world.
Like, well, because what with Aron, it was they'd never seen a gray excel as much as he had, you know.
Yeah, he adapted very easily.
Yeah, and then with Wistala, her ingenuity was like rivaled to none. And then with Copper, you know, his just the fact that he survived and how he thrived despite everything that's happened to him.
His tenacity
and his kindness.
I will say that I both loved and hated, and so for me to say that I loved and hated something, that's a very good thing in my eyes. Because the kicked puppy syndrome of a character in a book, I usually fucking hate it. Where the book is just...
I don't think the Copper was a kicked puppy. I think he was a stabbed and tortured and burned alive puppy.
And beaten with metal rods. But, like, typically you have a character like that in a book, and it's just like, it feels like someone is trying to just twist the knife of empathy, like, feel bad for him! And it's like, don't tell me how to feel about a character. And so I got those vibes, but at the same time, you know, like, I really was rooting for him the whole book.
I think it helped that he didn't feel sorry for himself.
Yeah.
Because that's usually when it's like trying to force you to feel bad, but the fact that he was just like, well, that sucks, but okay.
There were a lot of instances in the book where he basically compared 2 options. Option A is I do this thing that could be dangerous. Option B is I die. And dying for him wasn't exactly the worst thing in the world. Like, he'd just be like, well, you know, I'm going to just do this or I'm going to die. So may as well do it, you know? And whereas most dragons would probably be like, well, I don't want the possibility of me dying to happen. But he felt like he had nothing to lose. And when you have nothing to lose, that makes you dangerous.
Yeah, but like you mentioned earlier, how there's a whole bunch of infighting going on. Mm-hmm. And that's because that's just like one of the, I guess, the dragon cliches is they always fight amongst themselves because they're super greedy and super covetous and so arrogant, and you know, they tear themselves down. That's the only way humans can stand a chance, kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, are you okay with that? The way he handled that trope?
Yes, I actually am. I will say that out of the 3 books, I liked this one the most. Again, another random insight. But like when we're at work and we're listening to the book, usually we'll do about 4 or 5 chapters, and then Ray will be like, "All right, that's enough for tonight." And I'll be like, "No, let's keep going." And this book was the only one I did that with.
It finally happened. I'm so proud.
Well, because like none of it, like even their cliffhanger chapter endings, it was like, man, I need to know what happens next, and I didn't feel that at all with Aron's or Wistala's book.
Mm-hmm.
I will feel that I was definitely 9 out of 10 rooting for the copper. Whereas for Auron, I was just like kind of 3 out of 10. And with Wistala, it was just like, yeah, okay.
I didn't feel that way till about maybe halfway through book 2, or the second part. That's when I actually started to get invested. But the beginning, and I don't know if we're going to spoil the territory or not yet, but that one rubbed me the wrong way. Got kind of frustrating.
Yeah, we'll get to that after the break. But Diletan, what are your opinions on how the author handled dragons themselves, their tropes and all that?
I mean, I get why he did it, but I'm not going to agree with it because it doesn't. I always view that kind of shit as a cliche, and I wish authors would go away, try to ignore that all entirely, or try to choose something different. Because the way the dragons act, they can't form a society like that that'll last.
Well, they can if the leader is, strong enough and influential enough, and I think that the Tyre was, but as he got older, his grip on his, I guess you could say, his version of society started to falter. The problem, I think the problem is that the person who is leading the dragons really influences the way they all act. And if you are weak of will or weak of mind, you're not going to be able to control them, and you'll be overthrown or killed. I believe that if someone were strong enough and brutal enough, but also had enough empathy and care, you could keep the dragons prosperous and, whatever, long enough. The problem is that the Tyre was old, so...
Yeah, it just seems like, from an outside point of view, it's like it's held together by duct tape, and the smallest little cut will just send the whole thing collapsing, which it kind of did in a way.
Yeah, and that's why you tear it all down and then rebuild it with a stronger foundation, and it will last a lot longer.
You're appealing to his revolution boner.
Yeah. For those who don't know, I have a very strong affinity towards anything about rebellion. I don't know why, but I love overthrowing governments.
Rebellion, revolution, resistance, guerrilla warfare, all that.
When I wanted to play Far Cry 6 with Diletan, I said, yeah, you play as revolutionaries, guerrillas? Yeah.
Yes.
Play as revolutionary guerrillas trying to overthrow the Cuban government, and he's like, I'm fucking in.
Goddamn Stormcloak.
Stormcloak.
Actually, I hate the Stormcloaks.
No. Okay.
No, we're not getting into Skyrim right now. No, we're not.
Skyrim
we're saving
belongs
that for
to the Nords.
We're saving that for the Skyrim episode itself, okay?
Okay.
All right, any closing thoughts before the break?
Yeah, Cockney accents are awful.
Diletan, your last words?
Lisps do not fit dragons. There we go.
Okay, dragons should have... depending on the tongue structure of the dragon, like sometimes they have forked tongues, sometimes they don't, whatever. Sometimes the lisp will be unavoidable. But whatever. Alright, so we're going to take our small little break for you to pause the episode if you want to read the book yourself and you haven't yet. Feel free to join us when we return as we get into more spoilerific discussions. I'm going to have to cut and paste this to before the break, but there's one thing I want to do, okay?
Okay.
Right, so, alright, so, without saying who they are or why you like them so much, we're just going to do the name. So just give the name and that's it. Who is your favorite dragon character from this book?
Nivam.
David! That was going to be my answer.
Alright, you can both say Nivam, that's fine.
But I want to be unique. Fine. We both have Nivam.
Alright, you can both have Nivam. I'm going to do Sea Drakon, and I will explain why after this break.
But he's an asshole.
I said I'll explain why after this break.
You better. And welcome back. It's time to spoil the shit out of this last book.
Alright, now we're going to try to spoil things in order rather than jumping around randomly like we did last time, just to kind of keep some structure, because I feel like the jumping around helps us forget things. So let's try to go in order.
Okay. Alright, book 1 then, because I got some bones to pick with this.
Yeah, so start in the beginning with him being young and in the cave and basically fighting for his life all the time because Auron's hunting him. Or your bones come after that.
No, I have some bones for this one, but I'll let Dilda go first.
Yeah, I have bones for this time too. I don't know when exactly Dilettant's bones are.
My bones are pretty much all of his broken bones. Like, when I was reading the first chapter, and Dre, you told me when we were starting this, like, you're going to feel very bad for the copper. I kept getting the impression that the author was trying to hammer down, like, you really need to feel bad for him. I mean, look at all this shit happening to him. They're beating his tail up. He's got a leg. They stabbed his eye and ruined it. Oh, look, he doesn't have fire anymore. Oh, no, his wing's broken. Like, it compounded, like, all the stuff Auron went through into just, like, one section. And it got kind of winding at sometimes.
It did.
I mean, most of his injuries didn't happen that early on.
No, what he's saying is that everything that happened throughout the course of Auron's life happened to Copper within the first hour of his life.
Like the author himself was trying to hammer down, oh man, you really need to feel bad for this Copper. Look what's happening.
I don't think that was the intention. I think the idea is he lost the supremacy fight, whatever they called it, when you had more than one male. He lost that fight. By all accounts, he should be dead.
Oh yeah, and his whole family hated him.
They didn't hate him.
Okay, no.
But this is one of the things I want to talk about from the beginning, because every now and then there was like a voice line thrown out, and I would look up at Bantam, and he's all like, "What the fuck?"
I almost legitimately cried.
It's like shit. I don't remember exactly. This is why I need to have the physical book, so I can just like bookmark the page and then turn to it. But it's like when he's talking to his dad, and his dad's like like, you have no name, cripple, outcast.
Oh, well, he was showing the gold horn and started to get defensive about it.
His dad had like a brief moment of, "You're my son," and he's like, "I suppose you could have a little," and he gives him some coins, and then he's like, "Oh, why not? Have a little more," and then he like snaps out of it, and he's like, as if you deserve it, you little bitch.
Okay, no. So what happened there is the dragons are susceptible to gold hunger, I guess we'll call it. If they see or smell gold, they'll get driven into a rage. Same thing happened to Astala when she first saw the rat horde and like went angry. It's like, kill the mice, kill the rats, kill the cat, mine. And Yarita was like, chatless hatch? You know, they just lose control at the sight and smell of gold. So the dad was nice. That was his default state. And then when he saw/smelled the gold, when he was trying to give it to the copper, that's when he snapped. It's not that he actually hates the copper. He just doesn't know how to deal with him because he's such an outlier. He's like, this doesn't usually happen, and our old traditional ways, I really can't do anything for you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the part that almost made me cry. So that one got close, but the one that almost actually made me cry was when the mother was singing to her babies and her tail was hanging over the egg shelf, and he cuddled up to her tail for fucking warmth, and she went and like pulled her tail away, like, no. Like,
okay, you made it sound like she was disgusted. She was not disgusted. It was just, again, you don't belong on the shelf. Auron won the contest.
How hard
you
is
need
it
to
to
go
just leave
and live
your
on your
tail
own.
there? He's fucking suffering.
I think the idea was... so again, I feel like these particular parents were they were enslaved to the old way of doing things. Tradition and all that. Moving forward, Auron tries to help break the tradition, and I think the copper does too. I can't remember exactly. But the idea is, if she shows him too much kindness and coddles him and that kind of stuff, he's gonna, I guess, become soft or let his guard down or something and not be able to survive on his own, especially if Auron keeps trying to hunt him down.
I don't care. I don't. You can explain it away all you want.
It is harsh. I'm just trying to make you understand. It's not because his parents hated him.
I know. But like, so in the first book, when I say first book, I mean Auron's trilogy or whatever. I was like, oh man, that sucks. His parents are probably dead. And then in Wastala's book, when you actually see they are dead, and it's like, oh my god, I feel horrible. Like, this is terrible. But then after Copper's book, I was like, yeah, fuck him. I legitimately had that thought. I was like, you know what? Fuck his parents. I don't give a fuck.
His book just turned you against him.
Yeah, no, it totally did. I was like, yeah, you deserved it. The Jazara's death, in Auron's book and Wastala's book,
it was so inconsequential. It was like, Jazara it sucks, it's random, whatever.
Yeah, but then Copper's book, I was like, holy fuck, no. Like, Jazara.
Dude, the part so she's singing to him and being friends and like friendly, and he's like super happy, and then she comes back like, Mother says I can't sing to
that
you
also
anymore.
made me so fucking
And
angry.
he's like, please, you're all I have.
Oh
I
my
don't
god.
want to be
Okay,
alone.
okay, that also almost made me cry.
So how are your feel glands doing, Diletan?
They were unaffected. I was more so kind of rolling my eyes like, what else is going to happen to this guy?
Wow, you're so heartless.
Well, no, again,
okay,
it's the
no,
kick
this is the
puppy thing.
desensitizing aspect to this. Like, a few things here and there to hit you, that's fine. But if you get hit so many times in a row, you just get desensitized to it. And that's kind of what happened to me.
Dude, I don't care. First time I read the book, at the Jazara scene, the I don't want to be alone, I was like, okay, Copper, you have my heart forever. And from that point on, he was my favorite character, and he still is to this day. Out of the three of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, point is, yeah, real rough early start in life. Then he runs into the dwarves and Hazel Eye. And Bantam, you still hate Hazel Eye.
I still hate Hazel Eye. She is not a redeemable character in my eyes. She can be impaled on a spike for all I care.
Oh, Hazel Eye was the one that met Oron on the boat, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And released so she was there for the capture and all that, but then she released Oron on the boat later. And then she also talked to him after he was grown up and was one of the ones that asked that he go to the Isle of Ice to infiltrate and all that.
The thing is that Hazel Eyes revealed her character type when in the third book. In Aaron's book, you're like, okay, maybe she's feeling bad and she's releasing him because she feels bad for him. But then you get past the Coppers trilogy and you realize that she tells them to stop beating him and releases him from the cage because it'll get him to trust them more. And then she just abuses that and uses them and just like, yeah, well, whatever. So now
what do you expect from a conniving elf?
Yeah, and now you go back and you think to the first book and you're like, well, she just wanted stuff. She had a dragon that was in captivity, released him going, you owe me now. You can trust me. Now go do my bidding. And it's
the thing is, so I still think in the first book she meant well, because I don't see what she could possibly imagine getting out of that. Like you have no guarantee the dragon's going to.
She wanted him to go spy on whatever.
No, but at the point when he was on the boat, super young, you have no guarantee he's even going to survive the freaking swim back to shore. I mean, he almost didn't. If it wasn't for the dolphins, he wouldn't have. So I don't think she did that particular deed expecting anything out of it. There's no way she could have foreseen that.
But I will admit
the part of the Copper definitely came across as conniving. But yeah, and then he gets beaten by the dwarves, which Diletan did not enjoy that.
It just felt like the author's just compounding more and more onto it. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, I was just kind of rolling my eyes at it.
Yeah. So the scene in the egg cave, since we've gotten both viewpoints on it, both sides of it, I guess, when they come to kill his parents, what do you think about the whole situation, the whole scenario? Like Bantam, you already said that you feel like the parents deserve it.
I kind of do, yeah.
Like, do you think is it the Copper's fault? Should he be called a traitor?
Yeah.
No. So the Copper...
This is textbook definition of betrayal.
Yeah, but he was told that this is what was going to happen, A, B, and C. And he was like, if you do this, A, B, and C will happen. And he's like, oh, okay. And then they went and did, D, E, and F. They promised that they would leave Jazara alone.
That they would capture Aaron
and Wastala, kill the parents. He was okay with that. Instead, they slaughtered everything and stole everything and then beat him.
Oh yeah, I think they also agreed to leave him the Horde.
Yes. They agreed to leave him the Horde because that would be his start. And they were like, and they even told him when he said that, like, leave the Horde, they're like, yeah, the pocket change, sure. They lied to him. And I feel like if I were to tell you, hey, I'm only going to take 3 pieces of your candy, and then you're like, okay, and I take all of it, you're not, at fault there. I'm the dick. So the dwarves are the dicks. It's not the Copper.
Yeah, but before all this happened, they tortured him. I mean, that should have been warning number 1, to not trust him.
Well, yeah, so what happened was he stole from the dwarves, technically, because he was eating random metal that they had left behind. So when they caught him, they beat him, because how dare he steal from dwarves, I guess. But the author does mention that the moment the bargain was struck that I will lead you to the cave, you can take my siblings, leaving Jazara and whatever. Once that deal was struck, they became very friendly to him. They started feeding him coins as well as food. They were now friendly with him. And then they betrayed him.
I mean, I guess.
Dragonblade's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, the Dragonblade's a fucking asshole, and I'm glad he died.
I mean, I don't know why he felt like he had to kill Jazara, especially since he knew that the others were looking for hatchlings to sell.
Okay.
He just has such an unending hatred of dragons. It's like, fuck you selling hatchlings, I'm just going to kill this one while you're not looking.
There's another thing about the Dragonblade that was kind of contradictory to his character. After he kills Jazara, when he comes back and he stabs the copper in the back, damaging his wings, and the copper's like, why don't you just kill me? And he's like, I don't kill weak, defenseless. He says something along the lines of, like, I only kill if it's a challenge. And it's like, you just killed Jazara, who was cowering and whimpering and begging for mercy. You fucking liar, you piece of shit.
Yeah, his whole character arc is all over the fucking place.
I feel like the author might have screwed up on that because just try to get Jazara to stay dead canonically.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how much he had written, like how much he had in his mind beforehand. Like maybe Jazara died in book 1, and I was like, well, shit, she has to stay dead. But I don't know, it really depends how much he had planned beforehand. But yeah, then we have a real brief attempted suicide by the copper, which is terrible. Suicide's bad. Don't do it, kids.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy when authors will put that kind of stuff into their books just because it shows they're not squeamish about it. Because as terrible as it is a thought that occurs to some people sometimes. And let's face it, he was rock bottom.
There was really nothing left. You know, his
parents were dead. The one sibling he liked was dead. Auron he didn't care about, but like
they were gone.
Rustala hated him and was like gonna come back for him at some point. Oh my god, he could not have been worse off no matter what.
Yeah.
Which I guess leads into Dilettant's, this is a bit too much.
A bit too much? That whole first part was just torture porn for the copper.
Yeah, it really was. It was torture porn.
It kind of was, but I mean, I feel like it was necessary for the way his arc had to go. It was necessary.
Not to that extent.
I mean, okay, so out of all the bad things that happened to him before he reaches the lava dome, what would you take out? Like, what do you feel like is unnecessary?
Having him stabbed in the back by the Dragonblade, damaging his wings. I mean, like, throughout all the different tortures that he suffered, he can no longer breathe fire reliably. He can't fly without assistance. He can't even walk normally because one of his front legs is busted up. And he can't move his tail the way a dragon would because it's been beaten and fused and basically is stiff. And one of his eyes is fucked up, so he can't even see out of one eye. So it's like, how much more damage can you do to a fucking dragon before it just flops over and dies? Like,
let's find out. Okay, no, so I'm going to explain that, and it is going to be mild spoilers for the other 3 books, so listeners, I guess, mute for 10 seconds. The point of the injured wing was to become friends with the human, I forget his name, the one that engineered the fix for it. And that's important because that human plays a big role in the other books. And so he had to become indentured to him or whatever. All right, welcome back, listeners. I feel like everything that happened to him was necessary in like some really small, minor way. But whatever. That's just me trying to be on the author's side, I guess. Yeah. Trying to defend him. He needs someone to defend him.
Oh, no, trust me. Most of the complaints I have about this book are with the narrator.
Because as we continue along the timeline, if Dilettant's got no other bones at this point.
No, it was just a torture porn.
Yeah, so continuing on the timeline, we now reach the arc of him living alone in the caverns with the bats and traveling to the lava dome. And worst. We already know you hate the voices of the bats.
I fucking hated them.
But what else do you hate about the bats?
How often they drank the blood?
Yeah, so every single time. So I hated how conniving and manipulative the bats were. Like, oh, I don't know, we kind of saved your ass back there. And it's like, did you though? And
saving you from near death is a mighty thirsty endeavor. Surely we can have a sip.
And I hated how often the author felt the need to describe them drinking his blood repeatedly. It's like, okay, we get it. We know how they do it. I don't need to know. Like, at that point, just describe where, and then
Look, you gotta hit that word count somehow, okay?
That's what it felt like. It's like, dude,
I don't
need to hear
stretched.
the same fucking description of them drinking blood and you getting woozy and passing out over and over and over. Then the snakes come out. And the snakes, so he gave the bats a Cockney stupid accent. And then the snakes come out, and I'm like, all right, even if he gives them a cartoonishly stupid hiss voice, that's fine.
Because that's the voice that turns you on.
But he did it. He did it. They growl. They're like growly. And I'm like, okay, of all the animals where when you hear it's, this animal, you should know what voice to do. And he doesn't do that voice. I was like, you fucking...
Let me know if I need to cut this out, but listeners, Bantam's second favorite, actually it might even be most favorite above dragons, sadly, but we're going to pretend it's second favorite for the sake of the show. His next favorite mythological creature are nagas and sentient snakes.
Yes.
So... This really blue-balled him.
It really upset me. Made me so mad. Yeah, I just that whole chapter to me, I can't remember most of what happened because I was so angry at the bats' voices. Everything about
basically they mention offhandedly King Gon at some point because it's his territory, and then he gets ambushed by King Gon. Manages to escape or chase him off or something.
No, one of the bats kind of alerts him or flies in Gon's face or something like that, and basically makes it so that when Gon strikes, he misses, and then the copper sprays, whatever the fluid that would ignite later on. He sprays that all over his face, which burns, so the snake retreats. And then they come back, waging a little mini
with a snake
army. And just start eating bats and whatever, and they're like, get the dragon, and then that's basically the forced scene change to get him out of the caves, because then at that point he dives into the water and he keeps going, taking a retinue of bats with him.
He doesn't kill King Gon, does he?
No,
I didn't think so. The first time I read it, I was under the impression that he killed King Gon. I don't know why. Because reading it again, I was like, no, wait, that never happened. Why would I ever think that?
No, because King Gon he showed that King Gon is can be defeated. And therefore, when they do the little snake army versus the bats, King Gon kind of stays back and gives orders. And that's when the copper and some bats leave.
Yeah. So book 7, King Gon, let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he makes it to the lava dome. He... quote, rescues a Grifferan egg. And he never comes clean about that, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Nope.
But, I mean, why would you?
Takes it to your grave. And yeah, when they were describing what the Grifferan looked like, that's when Bantam was like, hey, maybe in this universe I'll be a Grifferan.
So in this universe, if we follow Kingdom Hearts rules, where once you end up in the universe, you kind of have to take the form of something that exists within the world. So,
which is why I can't be a sea dragon.
Yeah, I'd be a Grifferan. Definitely a Grifferan. And then, yeah. And then the Grifferans talked. Oh. All right, I can understand that just some stupid bird that Aron talks with, and they're like, Nastrator. I understand, those are just stupid wild birds. But these things talk with dragons. They live with dragons. They protect, whatever. Why did they have to sound stupid too? Why did the Grifferans have to talk like parrots?
Because the narrator only has one good bird voice.
No, he has one bird voice. You don't put the word good in there. The fact that they're describing, so they start describing, I guess you could say, the leader, where he's got this scarred beak and scarred eye, and his talons are chipped and covered in rings and stuff, and he looks all imposing, and then he talks and it just sucks all the majesty out of him. I was like, now in my head I'm picturing you looking as stupid as you sound, and it made me so mad that he picked the stupid parrot sound for the giant monster birds.
Have you ever seen Quest for Camelot, the cartoon?
Yes.
What do you feel about that Griffin's voice?
I don't remember the griffin. I just remember the dragons.
Precisely. Precisely.
Yes.
I think that's just the voice most people give Griffins. Okay.
Griffins need to set. We need a book where the griffins sound fucking hot.
Okay, I got one. We can do that next if you want. Immediately, yep, got a book for that.
And this is why you're a book dragon.
Exactly, Dilettante.
Yes.
Input.
As far as the voice, I'm kind of indifferent.
Just anything. Just like, what do you think about the Griffins in general, I guess?
Honestly, I like the voice.
Yeah,
hot take
it was
here.
a good voice. No, I'm on your side. Not that hot of a take. It was a good voice for a avian creature.
Yeah.
No.
Bantam, you should start talking like that.
No.
Yeah, what you don't understand is Bantam has the ability to mimic voices. This is one he stole from somebody else. You should hear his normal voice. It sounds just like the nest raider bird.
No.
You've been lying to me for 3 years.
No.
Said it.
No.
Uh-huh.
This is my new headcanon. And you literally can never prove it wrong.
I will hurt you.
Okay, so a creature like a parrot or a kenku from D&D or whatever who... Well, I guess kenku don't have a default voice. All right. A bird creature who can mimic voices, like, no problem whatsoever. If they talk in their sleep, do they talk in their normal voice or do they talk in their most commonly mimicked one?
Probably their most commonly mimicked one.
So you can never defend yourself against this accusation.
Here's the thing. So as soon as, like I said, picture me who barely ever reads books listening to an audiobook for the first time, and he's describing how fucking cool this Grifferan looks. And he's like, oh, it's all scarred and battle worn and it's imposing and terrifying, and then it talks. And you're just like, what the fuck? And I remember pausing and talking to Ray about it, and I was like, why couldn't it have a sexy voice? Like, why did it have to talk like that? I mean, I could do it right now. Like, if I were to give that thing a voice, it would be something like this. You know, like,
That's more snake-like.
It doesn't matter.
bird-like.
Point being
That
is
was
it's
pretty close
sexy.
to King Gon's voice, wasn't it?
What?
Wasn't that pretty close to King Gon's
Maybe.
voice?
But
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
But all right, or then yeah, maybe the precisely. You know, but like point being is
That is the voice he gave him.
no, it
though.
isn't.
Bantam, birds squawk. That was a very squawky voice. It's why it fits.
Precisely.
Birds don't hiss.
That's not true.
Birds don't
That
hiss.
is not true.
Birds don't hiss naturally.
Quick, send in your responses to wadpodcast@gmail.com. Birds don't hiss.
Find out if birds hiss. Settle this debate.
Birds don't hiss naturally. Well, I'm not going to count if like a parrot can mimic the sound.
Yeah. You need to, like, if you hear hissing in the wilds, you look up and it's just a crow, like, hissing at a frog or something, like, send that shit to us. We need to settle this.
I mean, listen, a 3-second search on YouTube for bird hissing, and there's thousands of
Is
results, and there are birds that are hissing.
Okay.
Naturally, you're mimicking.
Here's one of a nighthawk hissing. It's considered a threat display to get things away from them.
Okay, a threat display. They weren't being threatening. They were just doing casual conversation, and casual
Point
bird
being is they're
conversations are
capable of doing
squawking.
it.
But they don't do it casually in conversations.
All right. After this podcast, we're fighting. I will
Bring
see
it.
you down in the fucking duel. I challenge you to a duel.
Cry challenged?
Yep.
Cry
Try
challenge.
challenge.
You primitives.
No, I want to see you down in the pit at the end of this episode.
Primitive.
Okay. So now we get to the lava dome in the timeline.
All right. I got a bone to pick with Sea Draka. That motherfucker
Draka?
needs to... Yes, he needs to read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, because holy hell.
It's an arrogance thing, and yeah, another example of the dragons being slave to tradition and how things have been done before. They can't. A lot of them mentally can't handle the idea of advancing or changing or whatever. That's a very inkling notion, and most of them don't like doing it or physically are incapable of doing it.
I will say,
Yeah, but that's...
I will say that although I agree with Dilettante that Sea Draken is a fucking asshole, and I guess you could even say a coward. I was fully expecting him to fill the military general in every single, movie trope ever, where, he's like, that's a stupid idea and it'll never work. We're going to do my plan. And then he does his plan. And I was like, well, And then when that doesn't work, he goes, okay, let's see what you got. And then they do it. And he actually, instead of going, well, that was stupid, because I was expecting him to like talk down to them, like, that's stupid, don't ever do that again. But he actually was like, whoa, can you teach me how to do that? That actually worked really well. Like, congratulations.
Right, because
he didn't go that far.
Well, he didn't congratulate them, but he did want to be taught. He did. Technically, that is an admission of fault.
It was an admission of fault, because you would never want to do the same thing that they did if you thought it was stupid.
Yeah, so he's not completely asinine. It's just like I said, the dragons being a very long-lived species. I mean, Typha Hazathan himself was at least 1,000. Because at some point he throws out if he lives to be another 1,000, so it was at least 1,000. Numrock himself was probably several thousand. Who knows, right? Very long-lived species do not usually change their ways. It's the whole reason why humans tend to outpace them in a lot of these fantasy worlds.
But we've already read like 3 different times how well these dragons adapt.
Right, but they have inkling blood in them. I don't know if you caught it in the books, it's such a throwaway line, but Irelia, the mother, it was most likely an inkling from the lava dome who left at some point. So they are descendants of inkling who are, I get quote, twisted dragons because they were tainted by the great wizard Inklemir. They actually are smarter than the other dragons. They can think, they can adapt, they can change. That's why these 3 are such a powerful force in the world, and being able to advance dragonkind to the next era.
Yeah.
Nivam, I think he's supposed to be half inkling. He mentions that at some point when he's talking to Rugard, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's why he was able to come up with the whole using the rock idea, because he also has the inkling ancestry. He's got a +3 to his intelligence score.
And the fact that he disguises himself to, when he leaves, like, most dragons wouldn't think to go through the whole thing of caking yourself in mud, wrapping up your face, and, disguising yourself.
I was kind of surprised about that.
Huh?
That one actually did take me by surprise. I was kind of happy for that. Good old guerrilla warfare.
I mean, that wasn't really guerrilla warfare. That was laying low.
To ambush, which is traditional guerrilla tactics.
Oh, you're talking about the battle on the hill. Okay.
No, we're talking about when Nivam showed up to the Copper, when the Copper was at that uphold.
No, I know that's what you were talking about, but then Dilaten just went all the way back to the battle on the hill with the sieging of the Gios. Yeah, that's what kind of threw me off. But yeah. I say but yeah a lot.
New drinking game.
Yeah. Take a shot out to my ego, but yeah. I almost
know
say it again.
You were. The fact that you hesitated, I was like, he was going to say it again.
All right, since you guys are already attacking Sea Draken, I guess we'll go there. I want to defend him. He's my favorite. I love him. So first off, I admit he's an antagonist. I admit he is a generally bad person, but I just love villain characters so much that I just love him. He is my favorite. And one of the things, so he is such a creep, but he is such a lovable creep. Like his whole bath full of women. It's like, disclaimer, sexualizing women is bad. Don't be a creep.
Don't be a dragon creep.
All this is bad. These are all bad traits. I fully acknowledge that. But just like in the book, it's so good.
I will say that this book kept me on the edge of my seat, so to speak, with how much I hated people, and then finding out I like that. I like having my expectations subverted. So when I told Ray while we were listening to it at work, I told him how much I hated
Tilia?
No. How much I hated. Oh yeah, I told him how much I hated the voices for the bats and for whatever, and he goes, "Ooh, wait till you see Malevolent." What's
yeah, these fucking names, man.
Malevolent. Yeah, I knew it had like malevolent in there.
I keep trying to say Maleficent for some reason.
So he's like, "Oh, wait till you see Malevolent," and when I first heard Malevolent talk, he thought that maybe I wouldn't like it because he sounded super flowery gay. I didn't hate him as a character. I thought he was. I liked the voice.
He was also a really good character. He was also an antagonist.
But so as far as characters that I hated after the whole bat thing, I hated Tilia. I hated Tilia because I was like, oh, she's the big bad. And then
she's such a bitch. She has to be.
She's such a bitch. She has to be. The amount of time she's like, oh, don't worry, I wouldn't poison you. I'm not going to poison you. I haven't done it yet, and I'm not going to start with you, and I wouldn't push you off the cliff.
Yeah,
and
she
I
said
wouldn't
that
cut
every
yours.
time.
And yeah, it's like, and I was like, oh, she's clearly the bad guy. I hate her. And then it shifted to C. Draken, and I was like, oh, he's the dick. He's the bad guy because he overthrew the tire, possibly by killing him. And then he dies.
I don't think it had anything to do with the tire dying. I don't think it ever gets finalized what exactly happened. I do think Telia may have killed him.
But point being is that my anger shifted from Telia to Sea Draken and then to Sea Mevelin. And I was like, holy shit, my God, I don't know what to think anymore. And the fact that,
the whole political clusterfuck towards the second half of the book.
It didn't last long enough.
Beautiful.
It didn't last long enough for me to hate it because I hate politics. I hate it.
I love it.
And when it happened in this book, I was on edge because I was like, oh, God, here we go. But it didn't last very long, and I was very happy for that. His reign probably lasted all of 2 or 3 days.
Sea Dragons? Yeah, something like that.
A
bit longer.
Both of them, I guess.
Yeah. Sea Mevelin was probably a week or 2 because we had the travel time of him coming back from the Uphold. Right. But yeah.
The other thing, and this is a criticism of the writing, I know I'm wrong, but it felt like Rugard, the copper, had 4 different women that he was on and off again mated to, because there were so many fucking female dragons that just rotated in and out with similar names, and I hated it.
Yeah, I got very hard
I
to
had
keep track
no
of
idea
everybody.
who was the one that he originally loved, who was the one that he was actually mated to. I had no fucking concept of who he liked.
Yeah, I'll explain that in a second, but I just want to be Dilatan, do you stuff your pillows with human hair?
No, just use normal feathers.
She's just starting to ripen. The next few years are going to be exquisite.
I wanted to ask, is this like the dragon equivalent?
I love it.
Okay, for Z Draken, his fascination with women, is that like the dragon equivalent of bestiality?
No.
Are we actually going to throw that word out there?
It's one of the things that popped up in my mind.
Okay. So first off, that's the author's take on the whole capturing princesses thing, right?
I guess
the scent of females, particularly when they're flowering, let's say, kind of gets their blood to rise, right?
None of this is convincing me. It's not that.
Okay, but the point is, they don't actually do anything with them. As it is, I don't remember which character said it, but one of them was bashing C. Drakon for his love of the human females, and she does mention how it's just setting him up for a wild night with whoever his mate was at the time. I forget who his original mate's name was, because she was mentioned
essentially,
twice.
Essentially, the human females are the poison frogs that you lick and get high.
I wouldn't say high, but yes, it's borderline a drug. It's borderline
Dragon
a drug.
Viagra.
They don't actually do anything. Yeah, they don't actually do anything with the humans. Even Auron, oh my God. Even Auron himself had a brief issue with how he enjoyed, what was her name, Berry Sweet, her scent when she was growing up, how it's just admitted, that smelled good, right? He didn't really descend into any sort of craziness with it, but they just enjoy the scent and it gets their blood going, and it could be considered Dragon Viagra, I guess. But I don't think it's considered bestiality because they don't do anything with the humans. And even if they did, slams fist on table, I don't think that would count as bestiality anyway.
Because they're sentient and they're of age and all that.
They're sentient, they can communicate, yeah, that whole thing.
All I can think of right now is the episode of Rick and Morty with the dragons. We just want to be up in our cave fucking mammoths. You're the only one who wants to do that. God, I love that episode.
Low-key best episode.
It really was. We slut dragons are a very proud race.
All right, on to book 3.
Not quite.
Completely shut Ray down. How about a little bonding?
All right, enough of the Rick and Morty. This is not an episode about Rick and Morty. You, out of all of us, have the hardest time staying on topic, I swear to God. And you keep derailing me I'm trying to figure out where I was again.
We were talking about Sea Draken's love for humans. I think it was.
Oh, I remember what I want to talk to next, which I guess is technically part of part 3. So I guess we can move on to part 3 and including that stuff. I wanted to talk about the whole love triangle between Rugard, and the other two.
Yeah, you can't remember. I can't remember any of their names.
I remember her nickname was Aura, but I'm trying to remember what her real name was because they started calling her that a lot more later on, and so that's the name that got stuck in my head. Okay, so the one he actually ended up marrying, the sickly one, was Halaflora, and the other one, the one that he loved first before Telia got involved and kind of set up the marriage and all of that, was Nirasha. Those are the only 2 women that he was ever involved with.
But didn't one of them turn out to be evil, or who was the one that like, I don't know. There were so many female dragons that just came and went within several pages.
I think you're thinking of Infamnia, who was the one who was going to marry Nivam, but then ended up marrying Sea Drakon when he became Tyre. And then after Sea Drakon died, and the humans came in, and that whole reef skerfuffle happened, she ran away. She's the only, I guess, quote, evil one besides Telia, if you count her. But yeah, so as far as the triangle between Nilrasha, Halaflora, and Rugard, what are your opinions on that? Like, who do you think he should have ended up with in the end, and all of that? Whatever, right?
I like how his relationship evolved with Nirasha over time, and I wish they'd stayed together before the whole accident, if you can call it that, happened.
Do you think Nirasha killed Halaflora?
Yes.
No.
If the question
you think it was the action?
If the question's going to be asked of me, if do I think so and so killed so and so, I think it would be a safe bet to just say yes.
I mean, there's just not enough evidence.
She choked. She always ate small bites, and now she just took. I don't know.
Yeah, the hormones kicked in, and she just wanted to eat a lot and choked.
To take care of the eggs that were growing.
I just can't see a dragon choking another like that in this kind of book. The way the world's been set up and how
take a large piece of food, just shove it down their throat and be like, choke, damn you.
Yeah, I don't see a dragon doing that. It's all just honor by combat and bite your neck off. This kind of subterfuge I've never seen before. Yeah,
Nirasha is a bit more sneaky than just straight up combat, but like she said so herself, there were much easier and better times to have killed her on her own. So it's like, no, I think it was an accident.
I don't know. If a character tells me, oh, no, I didn't kill them. I mean, I could have killed them at any time. But I didn't. I'm like, okay, you did it.
But yeah, so obviously he marries Halaflora. She dies. And does book 3 end with him actually marrying Nirasha? Yeah, she does, because mentioned Queen at some point. That's right. All right. So obviously ends up with Nirasha. Halaflora is dead. Rip. But which one do you think was better for him? Like, which one should he have ended up with, regardless of what actually happened?
Which one was the one that he left the lava dome with?
I mean, both of them at some point.
The first time. The one where she was like, I've never traveled this way, but please don't send me away. And he's like, I won't.
That was Nirasha.
Then Nirasha.
Yeah, he started falling in love with Nirasha first, then Telia got involved and forced him to marry Halaflora.
Yeah, no, then Nirasha.
Dilatin?
I'm going to go with Halaflora.
Yeah, it's weird because he definitely ended up loving both of them.
I liked how Halaflora and Copper evolved over time.
Yeah, it's like Nirasha, he definitely did start falling in love with Nirasha, but I think Halaflora was better for him.
Yeah.
Like, once they were actually made and they made the best of it, she was actually, like, really supportive and, like, really just matched up with him much better. How did you react to the scene where Halaflora's like, your blood was certainly up today. I was certain you'd take your jade up. And he's like, what do you mean?
Like,
it's like, oh, it's fine if you have a mistress. I don't mind. It's kind of expected, honestly. And he's like, what?
Yeah, he was.
Are you crazy?
He was so fucking like, what? No.
I married you. I made a promise to you. Yeah, but I mean, look at me. I thought that was hilarious, and it was a good reaction, I guess you could say, from Rugard. Like, both the author and the narrator did a good job just kind of capturing the emotion of that moment, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, okay, so there we go. I say it again. Continuing on with the timeline, Rugard has his time in the Jackwatch. Never gets picked because he's
basically
deformed.
The way they described it, he was basically like a token character. in the Drakwatch. Like, he was of the...
Well, that's how they felt he was, because it's like, I think some highborn just wants him here to be like, hey, look, I have a son in the...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. So, about the Drakwatch, where they're wrestling, whatever. And he's like, you gotta stand up for yourself or they'll never respect you, right? And then they have that little kerfuffle in the water, and he bites the other dragon's dick.
You know, I had a double take on that to figure out what they were actually talking about for his dragonhood. I was like, wait, did he actually do that?
Yeah, did I cry? Did I cry settled? No, we did.
And the other dragon's sitting in the water, cold water, just like, good fight.
Yeah, it's like,
good fight.
Good fight. It's like, so there we go. Confirmed dragon genitalia is external. Down with cloacas everywhere.
0 out of 10.
Nope, it's better. It is much better.
Obviously not. If it's getting bit, that's why it needs to be internal. It's a defense mechanism.
All right, today on this episode, listen to us discuss the pros and cons of external versus internal genitalia on dragons.
Like, Dilettante and I are of the same mind on this. It doesn't make sense to have them be external. It's a weakness. It's a vital point. And with how the dragons, like, during the feasts and during the celebrations or whatever they want to call them,
listen,
the fact that they decorated themselves, painted their claws to make themselves look pretty, I don't think they just want their shame hanging out.
Okay, first off, it's not shame to them. That is a completely human notion, okay? Most other creatures probably would not feel ashamed of being naked because it's just them in the natural way. And keep in mind, the time period of this book is pre-medieval. I mean, it was amazing that the Gyars could build stuff out of stone the way they did, right? Yeah. They barely have crossbows. Only the dwarves have them at this point. So whatever. There's no reason a dragon would be ashamed of being naked, okay? So first off, they don't care. That argument is invalid, all right? Fuck you.
My argument about it being vulnerable, though, still stands. I.e. example of dick being bit.
That goes with every single creature in existence, okay? Humans wear clothes all the time. It's still a vulnerability. It just happens, all right? The only animals that have internal genitalia are reptiles, okay?
And what's a dragon?
Birds.
A reptile.
Birds arguably don't even have genitalia, okay?
How dare you?
I don't know which ones do and which ones don't, but I think most birds do not have dicks.
They all
right?
do. It's just that it comes out of the same place.
Whatever. First off, there's major hygiene issues with the cloaca, okay? Second, dragons are not reptiles, okay? They are not endothermic, they are ectothermic, right? They have a high blood temperature, especially if they breathe fire. They do not need to go and sit in the freaking sun to warm up. They do not eat once every 2 weeks because they don't need that much energy. They do not die in the fucking cold. Just look at the Saturn Vale. They're up in the cold mountains and they're completely fine. They are not reptiles. And so when you have a high internal body temperature, your reproductive organs cannot be on the inside because that's how you kill sperm. Now, it's probably not just sitting there flapping around like a human's is. It's most likely like a horse sheath type of thing, right?
Okay. Right.
You're just laughing your ass off in the background, aren't you?
You don't know that.
I was trying to find you a picture to prove a point, but these are all terrible.
A picture of what?
A bird dick. But they're all just photoshopped human dicks on birds, so...
Because they don't have them naturally.
They're just very thin. They're like little twigs.
Either way, dragons aren't birds either.
I did find someone asking on Quora, are dragons reptiles? And everyone seems to unanimously agree that they are reptiles.
They are not reptiles. The only reptilian trait they have is scales, okay? And that's not enough proof to say they're reptiles.
But what animal has scales that isn't a reptile?
Well, I mean, I breaking down my own point, armadillos, echidnas.
Birds technically have some scales. Also,
all right, well,
fantasy creature, you don't need to completely follow the same animal logic, I guess, that we have in this world.
Okay, speaking of logic, and this is something else that actually crossed my mind while I was reading this. If metal is supposed to harden scales, why is eating the softest metal, i.e. gold, supposed to help? Like when
the metal they have to eat is ferrous metal. Gold is ferrous, but iron is also. That's why a lot of times on a battlefield, they'll say like they found some arrows, broke the shafts off, and just swallowed the arrowheads. It just needs to be a ferrous metal.
Okay, I didn't know gold was ferrous, so that one's on me.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I had to look it up the first time I read the book too, like 3-4 years ago. I was surprised to find that gold was fairest. Yeah.
Do you want to know something else about gold? It's the only metal that actually can fuse with organic material.
Ooh, so that's probably easier to digest for them then.
It's much easier to digest. Like, you can eat gold. Like, as a human being, a human being can eat gold and suffer no ill effects, and possibly even digest it a little. I mean, you won't be able to digest the whole thing because human stomach acid isn't strong enough. But
they're not meant for that.
But it's gold. Pure gold will do nothing harmful to the body. That's why gold fillings are used in teeth, because the body doesn't reject it.
I did not know this.
You learn every day. So, Dilettant, have you been eating your daily ration of metal?
I don't need metal.
No wonder you're so weak.
No, see, what he doesn't know is that I'm feeding his stable of chickens iron.
I don't think that works.
Yeah, it does. It does. I know it's called gut loading, and so basically I just...
Right, but that only works if it's something they can digest in the first place.
No, I take the live chicken and I stuff it full of iron, and then he eats the chicken.
Okay. I understand where you're trying to
monster.
go, but I don't think that works because from the sounds of it, I think the dragons have a separate organ for digesting the metal.
Yeah, they have a metal gizzard that soldiers were like cutting open and stealing from the dead dragons.
So I don't think gut loading a chicken with metal would work.
Damn.
But what about your daily ration of kern? Have you been keeping track on that?
That's not chicken, so no.
Wow, you would not survive here at all.
That's why I don't want to go there. I haven't seen a single chicken in this book.
Oh, they have chickens.
Not enough. Not enough for me.
I mean, Sea Dragon was upset because they didn't get all the baskets of chickens they needed when they were going on their little trek. Okay, bottom line, dragon genitals external.
Okay.
That's the only thing. If you take away one thing from this episode, that's it. That's all that matters. Then begins the political turmoil. And then we have the approach of the Hag Riders, as Rugard calls them. What are your two opinions on the Dragon Riders? Not necessarily the bad ones, because even after they get overthrown, Rugard kind of keeps the practice and institutes it as part of the aerial force. They have the whole little oath that the dragon and the rider take. No, it's actually becoming a thing now. And I feel like this is the setup for the author's second book series that I haven't read yet. But Dragoneer Academy is apparently about a dragon and a rider that are at the academy learning and working together. And I don't know what the plot is, but I think that's the setup. So what do you two think about Dragon Riders?
0 out of 10. Completely disgraceful to dragons. They should not be ridden like horses. They should be free.
I mean, a couple of times, like, Neil Rogers I think I'm going to be sick. They're riding them like horses.
I agreed with that 100%.
I'm kind of half and half. On the one hand, I think it is demeaning and stupid, but if the dragon chooses for that to be something and then gets to pick out his rider, it basically where I feel like the rider should be the accessory, not the dragon. You know,
that is the way that Rugard sets it up. I mean, do you remember the oath they do?
But like the way the dragon riders typically were just like, grab a dragon and go, you know, and it's like, no, you need to have a bond thing.
Yeah, and then the saddles themselves, I think, were like bolted into the dragon themselves.
There were wings punched through the shoulders, or the wings are something for the saddle to sit on more firmly. But that's the way the Hag Riders were. I don't think he does that anymore for the aerial core that he makes. But yeah, there are definitely other book series where the dragon riding duo is definitely the dragon is just a beast, or there was a bond formed at hatching that, even though the dragon is considered an equal and treated well, is still technically a slave to the imprinting that the humans kind of forced on it. In both of those scenarios, I do not like it. But the way that it's done here, when Rugard sets it up later, where it's the human that is the tool, the entire oath is completely skewed in the dragon's favor. I am 100% on board for that. Do you remember the oath, Dilettant?
I do not.
Okay, so I don't remember the exact wording, and again, this is exactly why I should have the physical book. I should start buying them. But basically, the oath is like, this is my rider. He is unique and deserves my full appreciation or whatever. The humans say the same thing, but they say, this is my dragon, I am his rider, whatever. It's something about respecting each other, something about how the human will take care of all the chores, and I don't remember exactly, but the biggest takeaway is that the dragons say, if I die, he dies. If he dies, I will make sure that he's buried in a place of honor. So it is completely skewed in the dragon's favor. The humans in this scenario, the writers, are borderline slaves that are just used as Bantam put it in the previous episode, an accessory slot. Equip rider, get plus 20 to mounted combat. Go.
It's still a dragon can perform just as well without a rider.
In some things, sure. But, like I think I brought this up last episode. If you were going riderless against a dragon who was wearing armor and had a rider with a poison-tipped crossbow, I think you would lose 100% of the time.
See, that's why in my world, my dragons have wrist gauntlet devices that also fire arrows. So they can, like Iron Man, fucking shoot the rider off.
And you know, maybe someday this will too, but like I said, this is pre-medieval from the sounds of it. They're not going to get wrist launchers.
Oh.
I mean, it's not that technical. It's just maybe like pre-Renaissance.
It's still pretty far off.
Well, still.
Don't worry, Bantam. You can be my raider.
Don't do it,
I was actually
promoting
trying
a stereotype.
to find somewhere on like the wiki or something what the oath was.
The actual oath?
It's not anywhere on.
Yeah, I already looked for it. It's fine. I'll transcribe it at some point. Well, were you going to start saying it with me right now?
I was going to read it, but...
Oh, well. It's fine. You can be my writer. Do you accept?
Don't promote the stereotype.
First of all, I am not a rider. I am a Grifferan, and my place is watching over the tire. So,
all right, so you can be my bodyguard then.
Okay, so I got a question for you guys.
Yeah?
Did any of you predict while you were reading that the copper would become Tyre?
The first time I read it, I kind of had it in the back of my mind, like, I'm pretty sure, just because that's, normal story writing kind of a pathway, I guess you could say. But when I read it the first time, I also knew there were 6 books. I got to the series very late, so I didn't think it was going to happen that fast.
So as soon as I heard that the Tyre was up for grabs, that the old one was looking for a replacement, I knew that he'd be chosen, just from the history of the last 2.
So I actually didn't see it coming at all. And the reason why is because with how bad his life started out, once he got to the Lava Dome, I remember telling Ray while we were listening to the book that given everything that Rugard went through, I think I would have been content to just let things happen and do what I was told because, being fed and attended to and cleaned and basically given a place of honor is just such a wonderful change of pace for him. Like with Auron's story, it started off high, like he was the champion of the eggshelf and everything was going great for him. And then, assassins. And then so his book started strong and then fell off a cliff as far as, fortune going for him. And then kind of scraped along the bottom for a little while. And then toward the end, picked back up. But
yeah, his entire arc was a series of climbs and falls. Like he starts high, then falls, then he kind of gets up there again, but then he falls because the dragon was chasing him. Then he kind of gets up there again, but then he falls because Numwalk dies. Then he gets up there again, but then he falls because the Blighters killed themselves off. Then he kind of gets up there, right? It kind of keeps going up and down.
With Wistala's, it was kind of a wavy line, always kind of hugging the middle.
Not nearly as extreme as Auron's, yeah.
But with the Copper, his story basically just scraped along the ground for a while and then immediately just crashed through the roof of the graph and stayed there for a while. Considering everything he went through in his young years, I would be very content to just sit there and just do what I'm told. And, because
he was content to just be an upholder in Anaya.
Yeah, he was like, you know what? I'm being fed. I'm being somewhat respected. It's like people making fun of him, calling him Batty because he keeps bats around. It turns out to be one of his greatest strengths because he can use them as spies. And later on in the book, he uses them to essentially weaken other dragons, which is fucking brilliant.
I'm so glad he kept the bad companions. He's the only one that stuck through one of the companions that he actually met. Everyone else just
he had those 3 bats that were born while he was traveling, and they grew up primarily on dragon blood, so they became these huge, intelligent monster bats. And they didn't talk, like, pretty much at all, and I was really thankful for that. And even when I think they did talk a little bit, and when they did, they didn't have nearly the bad Cockney accent that the other ones did. But anytime he described one of the bats falling or getting killed, I was like, good. And I don't remember his name, but the one bat where he's like, he's old and fat and blah, 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 and he's just like, can I have some blood? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then he passes out, and they're like, what do we do with him? Snaps his neck, and then he's like, I don't care what you do with him. Just throw him in a fucking soup or some shit. I don't give a crap. And I was like, yeah, that's what you deserve, you stupid bat. I was so happy. It was the most nonchalant fuck you death ever for a character. And yep. I get it. You know, it's a bat. They don't live very long. And, you know, he was always kind of annoying. But for me, it was symbolic of the Cockney accent going away.
All right, going back to the tire bits, what I was going to bring up is how bad about you just be content with him settling. From an author's point of view, that would make the entire torture porn sequence from the first book completely unsatisfying. Not necessarily unnecessary. Like, you build up that much, you got to have a good redemption arc for it. And just settling in at a cozy life in Lava Dome doesn't really redeem everything that's happened to him. That's why as soon as I heard that the tire was, he was looking for a replacement, I knew immediately the copper was going to get it.
Yep. It also kind of fits into his theme. Like the three dragons had different themes, different last lessons from their parents, I guess. Auron's was to adapt, and so his entire book was him adapting to different scenarios.
I thought it was Stala's was adaptation. Oh no, that was.
I don't remember what Stala's was. I don't remember what the word was, but it was basically just ingenuity. Her being able to figure things out. But Rugard's, his final lesson was overcome. So all the stuff that happened to him at the beginning, and all the stuff that continued to happen to him throughout, his entire theme of his book was overcoming that.
Right.
You overcome and you rise above and you reach for the stars. The other theme that all the books had was how they, in the end, would view mankind and the other hominid races. Auron wants to live alone, which is why he's up in the north. It's like we don't interact with them at all. They are ephemeral, and you have nothing but pain when you interact with them. So just whatever. We'll just go to this icy frozen north, and we'll just live here. And again, icy frozen north, warm-blooded, not reptiles. With Stala's, she wants to work with them because she actually had a decent upbringing. Elf father was a pretty good father. She also technically has a political office among Hypatia. She owns land. She's got a lot of people that love her. She wants to work with them. She's like, dragons and hominids can learn to coexist. Rugard, I don't think they really touched on it very much in this book. It's mostly a book 4 thing. I guess he mentions at the end of this book. He wants to conquer them. Dragons belong above them. They are nothing but servants or food, and dragons deserve to be on top of everything. And thus begins the Age of Fire. Title drop, last line of the book. Which I thought, I like title drops like that, especially when it's the last line. Very powerful. One little nuance as far as Dragon Society goes was the way they worded a couple of things, I guess. With the, will you cry havoc with me? Or cry settled, I cry submission, cry greeting, whatever, just that. I enjoyed that. I kind of want your guys' opinions on it, even though it's so minor.
I actually really enjoyed it too, because if you can imagine 2 human fighters fighting, right? And then one of them is like, I surrender. And the other one can go after him. Like, okay, you surrendered and I kill you now. But if with the way the Dragon Society seems to function is like, if I cry surrender and then the other dragon goes, I cry, I accept or whatever, it feels more honorable. Like, instead of just, like with the war thing, like cry havoc, it's like that, I guess, takes the place of like a war cry or whatever. But point being is that it's giving us, it's announcing intent. Like, to me, it just feels more proper.
Yeah, I imagine it kind of descended culturally from the fact that they are, let's face it, they're borderline wild beasts. They only recently started being civilized, I guess. Like, sure, we had Silverhide X thousand years ago, but then for the most part, they all lived in caves. They were basically wild beasts, no furniture, no technology. They just hunted, lived in caves, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most wild animals don't. How best to explain this? Most wild animals don't talk. They just kind of make sounds. Like a wolf kind of just howls, a tiger just roars, and all that, right? I imagine that the dragon language, way, way, way back in the beginning, kind of started as that. Like they had very few words. Like this particular roar meant challenge, or this particular roar, which would have been, I guess, their battle cry, meant havoc or whatever. And then just as society developed, as they got more words, it just became tradition, I guess, to where when you say, "Will you cry havoc with me?" The draconic word for havoc to everyone else just sounds like the roar a dragon makes when it's attacking. Like that, in my head, that's kind of how I figure it came about, and kind of why I like it so much.
Right.
To cry submission, the dragon word for submission probably sounds like the whimpering sound a dragon would make if it were to surrender to somebody. Like that's, in my head, the way it makes sense. Anything else we need to bring up?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I got all of my my grievances out.
Your gripes out?
A lot of times while I was driving to or from work, or we were going somewhere for food or something, and I'd be bitching about he's like, save it for the episode, and I'm like, no, if I don't let off some of this steam now, it'll explode. My head will explode.
I guess it's for the sake of talking about other cultural points, since we're supposed to be, I guess, dissecting different worlds of dragons, as it were. Title drop. How about the fact that because so many dragons lived so close together, they had to use incense to cover up the smell of other male dragons, so they didn't just fucking kill each other off all the time.
I liked that
because that's a very powerful instinct, and is completely what drives the egg fight at the beginning of their life.
Yeah,
I did like that touch though.
Like every time they start arguing, raising voices, people are like, quick, more incense, more incense.
Oh yeah, the thralls running over trying to calm them down with as much incense as possible.
Yeah.
There's one thing we haven't touched on though, and that was the Dragonblade himself showing up and trying to be the governor of the land.
Yeah, it's really weird. So the Dragonblade's arc himself was he attacked the nest, continued to hunt dragons, killed the father, tried to kill Wistala, ran into Aran before he escaped. Then he goes back to the Wheel of Fire. Wistala burns down the Wheel of Fire. He agrees to retire. He then gets dragged into the governorship by, I'm assuming, the Wizard of the North or whatever his name was. Gets killed there. His son inherits the title Dragonblade. Goes up to the north to live with the wizard. Gets killed by Aran. I'm pretty sure that's the order of events that happened with him. Does that sound right?
Wait, then who was the one that got killed in the arena?
The Dragonblade.
The original Dragonblade.
Yes, after he comes out of retirement, that was forced upon him by Wistala burning down the Wheel of Fire.
Okay.
Yeah, but basically, fuck him. First of all, as a dragon, fuck him for hunting dragons. I don't know what goddamn chip on his shoulder he's got, but fuck him. But then just from a literary perspective, what the heck happened to make him just so adamantly against him that he just kills hatchlings? And he's just so arrogant. It's like, can't even breathe fire? This isn't a challenge, let's end this. It's like, oh my fucking god. You're more arrogant than some dragons are, and you're a goddamn human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other closing notes then?
I will say that this, Rugard's whole story arc actually made me excited for the next book.
That we're not going
to do, but maybe I'll go.
You can read it on your own time.
Maybe I
then.
actually will on my own time, because
I was gonna ask after the closing. So I would put it after the closing music so that everyone else could just stop listening. Do you guys want me to spoil the other 3 books just as closure?
Possibly, yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So listeners, after the closing music, I will do a brief overview of the next 3 books. So if you do not intend to read them yourself, but just want to know what happens, you can stay around for that. If you want to read them yourself, and maybe even will read them when/if we come back to it, maybe don't listen to that, unless just not knowing for a year or 2 is going to kill you. Alright, so before we get to that, Dilatan,
Yes.
would you, if you don't want to be a dragon living here, would you want to be a thrall?
No. No, no,
No?
because the way they dismissively talk
we've-
about their like, oh, and if you get hungry, just eat one of the thralls. Like they,
No. It's not if you get hungry. It's if they don't do their job, eat them. They don't eat them for no reason. They have to be bad at their job.
And not speak good dragon, apparently.
Yeah, that's why when Steve Merlin just like picks one up, he's like, "I'm hungry," and his plate was empty. Well, it's not his fault. We can't just eat them for no reason. But yeah, I mean, we've already kind of outed the fact that you do want to get eaten.
Yeah, but that's not the fun kind.
well, thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us and ask us any questions or engage with us, our Twitter is @officialwadpod. Our email is wadpodcastmail@gmail.com. And we do have a Patreon at World of Dragons Podcast. Also, if you'd like, more continuous contact, you could always find one of the many posts that either we or others post on r/wormworks on Reddit, which is r/WYRMWORKS.
Yeah, I've started making a few posts there. One of the, and I'm actually a little nervous that it's like, not like it's unwelcome, but like, come on, Ray, you gotta keep it under control kind of deal. Because one of the posts I did was, what would it take for you to fall in love with a dragon? And the subreddit owner just responds with, "I always knew this day was coming." I'm like, I don't know what that means. Does that mean like I shouldn't have done this? Is this like too risque for you? It's like,
If it's still up, then they were teasing you. That's how mods usually work.
I don't know if that's good or bad. If I need, like, I have a couple ideas for new posts I can make just to try to keep discussion going, but it's like, maybe I need to like slow it down a bit or something. I don't know. He's got a not safe for work option as far as flares go, so it's like, I think this kind of conversation's okay. Okay, so on the topic of Patreon, we actually have a couple patrons now. Like, yeah, give them some shout outs.
Yeah, we have Venter, and we also have Tracinix, who has been probably one of the most devoted fans we've had. He's the one who asked us all the questions that we did in the last episode. He's been incredibly welcoming as kind of like an ambassador to Wormworks. And yeah, he's a pleasure.
Yep. So thank you both very much. It means a lot to us. It'll also help, I guess, cover costs. Like, audio files take up a lot of space. I'm going to have to get like an external hard drive just to store them. But again, thank you. It means the world. And it lets us know that you all enjoy it. And we're happy to keep doing it. So next episode is actually going to be a Dilettante solo episode, kind of similar to the one that I did a while back, because Bantam and I are going on vacation. And so it's going to be a little wonky to, I guess, get through an entire book or game or whatever. And so we just figured this would be the best, give Dilettante a chance to talk about himself, and we'll let Bantam have a solo episode in the future sometime.
Actually, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about.
Mine will be 6 hours of insane rambling.
Yeah, I will come up with like a list of like talking points and questions and stuff you can go through, but you should probably think of something you want to talk about. Like on mine, I talked about the show, its inception, and my hopes and dreams for it. So you need to come up with something. But I'll
I already got
some
it.
talking points.
I have been working 3 or 4, depending on if I'm going to include that or not, 3 or 4 different worlds that I've been crafting in my head, just out of sheer boredom. So, there you go. If you want to see what Dilettante's mind looks like, tune in and cringe.
Desolate Wasteland.
Aw.
That is one of the worlds, actually.
But then the episode after that, when we all come back together, since I chose 3 books here that I've had to make these guys suffer through, and they have never stopped belly aching about it. They don't like reading. We're going to do some video games and some movies and stuff for the next couple episodes, just to kind of give them a break before I throw more literature at them. But the next one we have planned is going to be the PlayStation 2 game.
It's Drakon and the Order of the Flame, which was actually a PC game from back in 1993, I think, or 1999. And then its sequel, Drakon: The Ancient's Gates, which was on PS2. Both games could tell one complete story about a dragon rider named Rin, who, for all intents and purposes, is basically a medieval Lara Croft. She's very British and very sure of herself, and nonplussed in like every cutscene she's in. And her dragon Arok, who, due to the graphical limitations of its day, talks like a fucking sock puppet, which is adorable sometimes. I was rewatching.
Wait, are you picking a media where the dragon is subpar?
It's a product of its time, buddy. The human characters also talk like sock puppets, but because Arok has, he's a big muzzle and a big dragon, his jaw just kind of goes ba 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 ba. But Arok has a incredibly sexy voice. For
He really does. I remember
his
the demo.
voices.
Does he? So he actually has a personality.
Yes,
He's not the type of dragon rider duo where he's just a tool.
No, he is a main character alongside Rin.
Okay.
The two of them are basically treated as a duo of there are a couple cutscenes in the game. Forewarning that Rin is just by herself, but Arok is in a lot of the cutscenes and he's talking alongside Rin. So
Yeah, it's kind of like a Draco Bowen partnership, from what I gathered.
All right, I'll allow it. Hopefully we can find a way to play these games so we can talk about the gameplay, but worst case, we'll just lore dive and just try to get all the story we can out of it.
I'll just read this out because it's not really spoilery, but the Drakan series is a series of action-adventure video games with RPG elements. They are told from the perspective of the warrior woman Rin and her bonded dragon Arok, as they battle against strange creatures serving the will of the Dark Union in order to save the world of Drakan.
All right, so look forward to that.
Sounds so unsure. Let's look forward to that.
I'm a little apprehensive, but I promise to give you guys a turn. So all right, let's go. Full steam ahead.
Hell yeah.
All right, again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right, bye-bye.
Goodbye. Tune in to hear me cringe.
All right, now everybody's gone. Tell us the juicy deets.
All right, those of you who have remained with us this far,
It's just us.
this is your final warning. I am about to spoil the main plot points of books 4, 5, and 6 of the Age and Fire series. If you intend to read them, do not listen to anything past this point. If you have read them, or you just don't care to read them, and you wish to stay with us, please forgive me. It has been 5 years since I read them, and I've only read them once because I did not like them. I've reread the first 3 books 4 times now, and I've only read the last 3 once. So, the copper gets fucked. Absolutely fucked. Alright?
Yeah.
Best boy
Ray
has all the best stuff happen to him.
Ray briefly told me that while we were at work. He was just like, yeah, they do him fucking dirty.
Oh my god, so dirty, you have no idea. I'm still mad about it all this time later. So, books 1, 2, and 3 were from the point of view of each of the kids in order, right? Aran, Wastala, Hugard. Books 4, 5, and 6 are going to be jumping around between the 3 of them from chapter to chapter, basically. We're getting all 3 points of view kind of at the same time as all this bullshit goes down. So, in the start, Aran is living up in the north. He's got kids. They are oddly adorable in a really weird way. There's a bunch of abandoned dragon lairs because of all the dragons that live there, and every now and then some basically lair raiders come to try to find leftover treasure or whatever. And one of these groups that he ends up stopping, I don't remember exactly what, but they explain that some shit is going down on the mainland. I think they tease that Wistala might be alive because they mention a green dragon named Wistala or something, and he just wants to go find her because he misses his family and he's just so happy to hear that she might be alive, and so he has to go find her. So he leaves and he runs into Darcy, of all people. And basically he's just on a quest to find Wistala. Wistala is on a quest to find other dragons besides the Sada Vale, and Rugard is just doing things in the Lava Dome. Aran runs into the same queen, the Queen of the Giaz, the one that first wanted him to go and spy on the Wizard of the Isle of the North or whatever, and she's got a new job.
Wait, so she's the queen is Hazel Eye?
No, not Hazel Eye.
Oh, I thought she was the one who wanted him to spy.
Hazel Eye is the one that put forth the option, had the conversation, all that. One of the other people there during that conversation was an emissary from the Queen of the Giaz. So she was the one who promised him the land in the south as reward for taking care of him. So he goes to find her. He pretends to want to claim the land as a way of talking, because he's trying to get information out of her or something. And then she basically gives him another job. Here, take this amulet to prove to people that you are coming on my behalf. I want to go and make a treaty or an alliance or something with these dragons of the lava dome, because they're starting to interact more with the surface, because this is Rugard's dream is to rule over everything, right? All three dragons, all three siblings end up meeting again. And it's kind of actually an interesting meeting when Rugard sees Auron. It's kind of funny. I don't remember the exact details, but I remember being amused by it. The amulet Auron had was enchanted to take control of him, so blue mind control.
So you love that.
Yeah, and he basically tries to assassinate Rugard, I think. They pin him down, they get the amulet off, and basically the Lava Dome is now at war with Giaz. That storyline goes in really weird places, because at some point they kill her, and then she comes back, either as a giant alien living tree, or maybe she was always the tree in the beginning and just was possessing people's bodies. It's really weird, and I don't like what they did with that. But there you go. That...
Okay, stuff. Okay. So I'm looking at the wiki, and they give very brief synopsises of the books. So, yeah, it says, so with what you just said, it's after the amulet, Darcy, Auron, and Westala arrive in time for the meeting at the Lava Dome. Darcy warns of a massive force of Iron Rider mercenaries and warriors of Giaz. Auron is taken over by the amulet and threatens the Lava Dome before attacking his brother, Tyr Rugard. And Westala, now a member of the Fire Maidens, pins him and breaks the amulet. The siblings separate again. Auron helps Neff defeat a group of Iron Riders, then leads them against the Giaz. Rugard recaptures Pastanix, and with his help leads the Lava Dome's aerial guard in a sneak attack on Giaz through the tunnels. Together they humble the city, though Neff dies, and when Auron burns the Red Queen, a mysterious blue light invisible to all but Dragon Eyes leaves her body and flies away. He discovers many other embryonic Red Queen bodies growing in a magical tree deep under the tower. Meanwhile, Westala was able to rally Hypatia, but with a small force of Iron Maidens held the northern pass against the Iron Riders for long months before rocks and dwarves forced her badly outnumbered forces into ineffective raids. Faced with a trickle of riders from the north and more substantial forces from the south, Hypatia surrenders. Nilrasha defies Rugard's orders and leads the Fire Maidens to rally Hypatia, leaving the Lava Dome undefended. Together they rout the Iron Riders and take the city, though Nilrasha is almost fatally injured and by collapsing buildings, forced to bite her own wing off. Over the next months, dragons and human survivors form a strong alliance and look to a better future. Then in Book 5, this is much smaller, so don't worry.
I guess just fuck my synopsis, I guess.
Well, it's okay, sorry.
No, go ahead. I don't care.
Westala, as sister to the Copper, who is now Emperor of the Upper and Lower Worlds, is appointed proxy queen by crippled Nilrasha, where she advances her ideas of political equality of hominids and dragons, which puts her at odds with both her brothers. For the Copper has no use for the humans he now dominates, and Auron, the rare scaleless grey, would isolate himself and his family from both the world of men and the world of dragons. The Copper sends Auron to bring his old friend Naf's territory, Dairus, into the Great Alliance, which he does successfully and becomes its protector. And Famnia and Nivam, defectors and protectors of neighboring Giaz, try to get him to join a conspiracy of dragon supremacists, and Abidio's traditionalists who want to see control return to the imperial bloodline. Though an assassination attempt, accusation of murder, and attack by the Wheel of Fire dwarves all fail, it erodes the Copper's position sufficiently for a coup. The siblings, all tired by court intrigues, tell me about it, give up without a fight, though Nilrasha kills Abidio when she comes to gloat. They go peacefully into exile on the Isle of Ice, only to be attacked again by a group led by Infamnia, and flee to the isolated Sada Vale, where Westala secretly mates with Darcy. And the last one is like 2 sentences.
It's called secretly because she actually takes the Fire Maiden oath to never mate. the rest of the Fire Maids actually consider her a traitor for going back on that later.
And then book 6 starts out with Rugard, Wistala, and Auron taking shelter away from the lava dome as they were exiled. Wistala goes with Darcy to hunt a troll while Auron returns to visit his mate. While Wistala and Darcy are hunting, they learn that Nivam and Infamnia have tried to take power from the twins, and another clan war has broken out. And that's
So, I guess a bit more detail that I could go into. Rugard gets a coup launched against him. He gets overthrown. He gets exiled to the Isle of Ice with the others. His wife, Norasha, gets imprisoned on top of a mountain because she can't fly because of the chewed-off wing. And Rugard does his best to try to rescue her at some point. His arc ends with him getting just shit on a bunch more, kind of like how he did at the beginning of his book, right? More injuries, more people hating him, more people trying to kill him. And when he finally saves Norasha, they just vanish. They disappear off the face of the earth because fuck the politics, we're going to go live in some quiet cave in the middle of nowhere that no one can ever find us. So I guess they do have a happy ending in the sense that they are alive and together, and I guess it does prove that they do love each other, rather than Norasha just trying to use him, which he suspects at some point during his book, when he's wondering if she actually killed Halafalora or not. So, bittersweet ending there, I guess, but I'm so upset at the coup in general, and the fact that he has to live in exile like that, when he used to be Tyre, is like, come the fuck on.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah, Wistala ends up marrying Darcy, gets branded a traitor by the Fire Maids, and I think she ends up to go live in the Satyr Vale. I can't remember exactly how hers end, but it was very neutral. It was very whatever. I guess I just don't care about her that much. Although I do love Darcy because stripes. Auron. A thing that they didn't touch on with Auron is his kids end up joining Rugard's empire. As much as he hates it, right? They end up becoming dragon riders because they love the idea of having a human of their own. And he's just super against it because he's like, no, we should just go back to the north where nothing ever happens because fuck all these politics. Fuck all these politics and fuck all these wars. But his kids want to stay, and so for the sake of his kids, he agrees to become the upholder of Dairus. And that just becomes a launching point for a lot of the drama that happens in the books as well.
Yeah.
The coup... Abidio, she wants the royal line to actually hold the emperorship, and because Rugard was adopted, he doesn't count, so she has twins that she gets put in charge. And it's just a big political mess. Honestly, the first half of book 4 is good, and I love it, but then once you get the sentient magic tree, and the coup, and all that, it's like, it just starts rubbing me the wrong way more and more.
Well, as soon as I read Sentient Magic Tree, I was like, okay. All right.
There are a couple of fun interactions, like during the part where Auron is the upholder of Dairus, he and his mate get involved in some social situations. Like, I think there's a party they go to at some point, and they just handle, like, leadership business. And that little stint is enjoyable, and I liked that. But then it immediately gets like turned on its side by, I think it's about the time when the coup happens against Rugard. They also kind of get kicked out because by being his brother, they like can't be trusted, or they refuse to pick a side or something like that. So they get upended and they get kicked out of Dairus as well. And just, it's a whole lot of unfair stuff happening to the three main characters, and I just didn't like most of it. People who take control of the lava dome after Rugard, they keep the whole feeding blood thing because they notice what happened to the bats. They get borderline turned into gargoyles. They're bigger than people now, and they're monstrous. Like, if you ever see like images of like the concept of a vampire who turns into a half bat, half man monster thing, it's kind of like that, and it's pretty cool. But they start feeding dragon blood to trolls to create these like super soldiers, and it's a little weird, I guess you could say. Oh, Reg, the human, the one that fixes the copper's wing and all that. He ends up becoming a villain. He like tries to take over, and he's like either trying to puppet master the two twins, or he's gonna kill them and take over himself. But he's gonna try to like bring down the whole dragon thing. Like dragons, if I remember correctly, he starts having the opinion that dragons are evil. They don't belong in this world anymore, and they're doing nothing but holding the world back. So he ends up becoming evil, does a whole bunch of weird stuff with magic, especially because they end up getting the crystal that was in Numrock's cave, and they're able to do stuff with it. And so between some weird magic stuff and then the fact that he is very technologically savvy because of his time with the dwarves, he ends up becoming a major player in a lot of the drama that happens. And then I think they get rid of him by sending him back in time? Question mark? There's like some weird borderline self-destructing thing happening with the crystal, and he and his wife disappear, and I think it's hinted that he becomes the wizard Inklemere way, way, way back in the day. Like, I remember walking away with that thought, and I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Between the Queen of Geos not dying because she's a magic tree, and then him going back in time and probably, like, perpetuating the whole infinite loop at this point by being the wizard Inklemere, it's, oh my god, it's so weird.
All right.
But yeah, there you go. We may actually go through this at some point when we're kind of running out of other stuff to do.
So we can
But
shit on
yeah, basically.
it does feel like from what I read and what you described, it feels like he wrote a complete story that he enjoyed writing, and then the publishers were like, okay, we need more, because this probably...
No, I feel like this was a story he wanted to tell. The publishers would not let this much bullshit through if they just wanted to keep the story going.
I don't know.
I should read Novice Dragoneer to see what happens. Like, how does he, like, salvage it?
All right, well, if you listened this long, congratulations. Gold star.
But yeah, see you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.